Good afternoon. It's good to see you all this afternoon. We're getting dangerously close to the time of year where we go from good afternoon to good evening, but we're not there yet. So it's good to be with you all this afternoon. And James, appreciate the songs. You can have a third time with those. It's okay. I like those. I will say I do appreciate, James. I can only imagine the logistics you went through to make sure you were back in time to be here, and I appreciate that. It would have been all too easy, I'm sure, to spend one more day there, make sure you got back just a little bit later to have a little bit of relaxing time before work tomorrow. But I appreciate that you made the effort to be here and were thoughtful about your duties today. So no complaints from me. Appreciate the songs tonight. There's a interesting kind of phenomenon that exists in the world and just as humans, right? The effect that people can have on us. If I try to go running, which I pretend like I'm going to try and do sometimes, I will shuffle along at my snail's pace. But as soon as there's somebody nearby that could see me, I realize that I'm running faster. And I don't know if it's because I'm embarrassed and I don't want them to think that I'm really slow. I like to think that there's just something energizing about the presence of others. There's nothing like jogging by the trash men and waving to them and saying, "Hey," and then you pick up pace, right? You got to run a little faster. There was an experiment that was done with school-age children where they put the kids in a room and they gave them a piece of ice. And they had them by themselves and they would time how long they could hold the ice in their hand. And, of course, they would hold it for a while and then it starts to burn and they drop it. But they ran the experiment again with their classmates around them. And you would be amazed at how much longer children are willing to hold the ice in their hand if their classmates are watching than if they're alone. And we recognize like the inherent truth of that, don't we? Now you have an audience. You have a performance. You have people there that are watching and cheering you on. And there's a fundamental difference there because you have witnesses. You have to prove yourself to them. In sports, they talk about home field advantage, right? They'll talk about a basketball arena as the sixth man, the sixth player on the court cheering from the outside or whatever sport is, the 12th man if it's football, whatever it is. That the stadium and the audience makes a difference. I tried to play sports a little bit. The closest I got to the experience of a crowd riling you up to perform when I was trying to play basketball, and I was the last man off the bench. Didn't get many minutes. So, of course, when your team is either up by 30 or down by 30, the home fans start to cheer your name because they're like, surely he can get in now. And it is, under those circumstances, pretty unnerving. But I can imagine if you are good and you are striving for the victory, the cheering of those around you urges you on, right? Makes a big difference. And so in chapter 12 of Hebrews 11, or chapter 12 of the book of Hebrews, he has this therefore. This therefore because he's reflecting back on the men of faith in chapter 11. And he says, we must also run the race that's set before us. Now, I'll be honest, this lesson is a Phil Roberts sermon. I like to go back and listen to some of his sermons from time to time. And sometimes they're so good that you feel like you have to share them with other people. So that's what we're doing. We're going to try and learn some of these lessons from our late brother Phil. For those of you who know him, for those of you who don't, died a while ago, passed away about 20 years ago, had a big influence on me. So I'm grateful to be able to share some of his sermons and ideas with you all tonight. And it's in this passage that he talks about this great cloud of witnesses, right? Those that have gone before you, that are cheering you on. A cloud. Perhaps because they are people who have passed from this life, that have gone on to their reward. And so they are now the spectators in the arena, watching from above. And that's kind of the imagery, that there's this arena. And you can imagine, maybe at the Olympics, the track and field arena where they have a stadium all around. And you have the runners that are running around the track or the pole vaulters or whatever it is. And you have this arena of people watching, cheering them on as they run around the track. And that makes sense. I mean, they had stadiums. We got our idea of stadium from this period of time, even before, where they would have their chariot races or their athletic events. And they would have the stadium and they would cheer them on. And so here, Paul pictures life as a race that we are running in this vast stadium of the earth. And we're not alone. There are those in the stands watching as we run. Those whose endurance and faith encourage you to run harder. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. It's not a 100-yard dash. It's not a sprint. It's a long race, one that requires tremendous amount of endurance. And so we run steadfastly, even when it's easy to quit, even when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we run. There are those who like to just get up and jog. To me, I treat it as like a fight against myself. You know, it's a test of will. Can I do it? And I hate to admit it, but I think my will has gotten a little bit shakier in the last couple years. There have been a couple times where you go out to run, and you're like, today I'm going to run a full 5K. I've got a plot for my house that I've run. I know the route. It's like, I'm going to do it today. It doesn't matter how much it hurts. I'm going. And you get to mile 2, maybe mile 2.5, and you're like, well, it's not worth getting injured over. And you play those games in your mind, and you stop and you walk, and then you spend the last bit walking home in shame because you didn't finish. You know, that's the way life is, unfortunately. Running a race. But if people were watching, right? If there was a finish line and people were waiting for me, how much harder would you push? How much do you strive to get through? Because you care when people are watching. And I think that's true of our spiritual lives and the lives that we live in general. There's a lot of things that we would never have the guts or the courage to do if there weren't people around us encouraging us along the way. Standing behind us, cheering us on. There was a interview with a marathon runner who was talking about the race. And he said, about mile 20, I almost gave up. The 20th mile turned and you almost give up. 20 of 26 miles. And you hit the wall and you think, I can't do it. I haven't done a ton of endurance athletics in my life, but I went for a bike ride once with a friend of mine in England. He's a big cyclist. And so we went riding through the hills of Devon. And it was great, except for the fact that it was one of the most miserable experiences of my life. And there's a moment where we went through this little village down by the coast, and we come around, and there's this climb that, in my mind, as a Floridian, was straight up the side of a mountain. And you're in the lowest possible gear, and I didn't know that you could ride a bike so slow. And I'm going. And I got about halfway up, and there was a bend around the corner, and, of course, my friend's long gone. And I stood on the pedals. I was like, I'm going to make it. And my legs cramped up, and I stopped. And I was done. And I shamefully walked the bike up the last little stretch of the hill, and he's waiting for me. And he's like, how you doing, mate? Or I guess that's Australian. I don't know. I can't do accents. And took a little water. Well, keep in mind, we were maybe a third of the way through our ride. So he's like getting ready to call a cab or something. And he's like, let's go. We got it. And you get on the bike and you keep riding. And somehow I finished. I don't know. But there's something about him being there, right? If I'm by myself, my legs are cramping. I can't pedal anymore. I can't go any further. I'm done. Like, that's the moment. But he says no, and he gives you a banana. You eat the banana, you drink some water, and then you just somehow fight through. And you make it to the end. It's true of marathoners. It's true of any sort of endurance race. You reach that moment where you have to decide, what am I going to do? And that's life. Ups and downs. Moments when it feels like the end is too far away to reach. I'll never make it. And yet that's the very moment when we are called to keep running, to persevere. And we can because others have done it before us. And because we're not alone. We have teammates, we have witnesses, we have this great cloud encouraging us forward. And so as we imagine ourselves running this spiritual race, think about what some of those witnesses from Hebrews 11 might shout to us from the stands. Sometimes, most of the time, I think you can't really hear what's going on in the crowd, but sometimes you do. Sometimes you catch a glimpse of something. You hear something in your ear. And imagine you're running around this track and you hear a whisper. Hear someone shout. Maybe it's Noah. Hebrews 11 and verse 7 says, by faith Noah, being warned by God concerning events as yet unseen, in reverent fear constructed an ark for the saving of his household. Think about Noah preparing the ark. Think about the distance he had to run. Just mentioned in the announcements, Brother Harold just turned 99. That's a long race. Noah built the ark for 120 years. 120 years building one ark. If we make it 60, 70, 80, 99 years, that's a long race. 600 years Noah lived. And 120 he spent building an ark. And during that time, you know the mockery he endured, the vileness of the world. You know the things that they would have said to him, the things they would have berated him about, something that was yet unseen, a boat for a flood that's going to come from the sky. You can only imagine the things that he endured, the things that he had to take. They had no idea about what was going to come, and yet he spent 120 years building. You can imagine the laughter that he heard. When you go running, may get passed a lot, may get sneers of other people looking at you because you're so slow, right? What does that foolish fellow think he's doing? But you just keep chugging along. And you look and you see the younger, stronger people zipping by, and you look crazy. Or people might look at you and think, why are you wasting so much time on something that means so little? Why not enjoy your life? The mockery, the laughter. But if you pass by Noah's seat in that great stadium, you might hear him say, it doesn't matter if they laugh. It matters if you finish. And you imagine in that moment the words of Noah saying that to you might pick up the pace a little bit. Gut out another lap or two. Think about Abraham. In Hebrews 11 and verse 8 it says, by faith Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to a place that he was to receive as an inheritance. And he went out, not knowing where he was going. For people who speak thus make it clear that they are seeking a homeland. As it is, they desire a better country, that is a heavenly one. You go through life and you make decisions and you move your family here, or you take this job there, and you make these changes in your life, and people look at you and think, you're crazy. Why would you not take this promotion? Why would you not go and do that job? Why wouldn't you move here or move there? They look at you and they think that your decisions are unreasonable. But as you pass by Abraham's seat, he might be calling out, this world is not the one that really counts. There's another one that matters more. And you think about the way that those words would echo in your mind to remind you to not trade the eternal reward for some sort of present comfort. He sought a better country, a heavenly one. And his words echo in our ears, don't they? Don't cash out too soon. Sarah might be right next to him, yelling, be patient. She might say, I thought it would never come. Sarah, who laughed when God said she would have a child. Sarah, who tried everything she could to try and have a child because she believed she couldn't. But Sarah might look and say, be patient. God was faithful to me. You can trust him. You think about the way that those words would impact you. Jacob, he might look at you and say, don't cheat. Don't cut the corner on the racetrack. It's not worth it. You may think that you can cut these corners and get your way. It's not worth it. Might yell from his seat, just run the race that you've got. You're better off. We know the shortcuts he tried to take, and we know the way that they cost him. He might tell us that the shortest race is the one that follows the track that God marked out for you. Don't fight against it. Moses, in Hebrews 11:26, it says, he considered the reproach of Christ greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. And Moses is fascinating, right? Because you think about his life and his journey of leading people through the wilderness. This is God's chosen people. And he might look at us and say, don't get discouraged, even when God's own people fail you. How many times did they rebel against Moses? Rebel against his leadership and against God? He might even warn us about losing our temper along the way. Don't allow even God's people to become a blockade in who you are. Run the race that's before you. And there's so many others, right? We could think about. Think about Elijah. Elijah, who in the cave is depressed and lonely and feels the pain of isolation. And God speaks to him and says, you're not alone, Elijah. There are yet 7,000. And so as you run by Elijah's seat, he might tell you, you are not alone, even if you think you are. Think about the encouragement we can gain from these men. This cloud of witnesses around us. Their lives and their experiences encouraging us to press forward. But it's amazing because the Hebrew writer gives us this cloud, right? But the stadium is so much more full than just from these men that he lists in Hebrews 11. And we have so many more examples than just the ones from the Old Testament. Think about the greater cloud of witnesses we have, not just from the Old Testament, but from the New. Think about Peter, who might look at you and say, after you've tripped and fallen on your face, get up and keep running. Peter, who fell on his face how many times? Sunk in the water when he had doubted, the wind and the waves were around him. Peter, who denied Jesus even as he's on trial and had the piercing gaze of his Savior look into his soul as he denied him 3 times. Peter would look at you and he might say, get back up. And in fact, in 1 Peter 5:6, listen to the words that Peter says. Now, this might be a little bit too long to shout out as you're running by in a stadium, but maybe we'll exit the analogy for a second. But listen to these words, the encouragement that he offers. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he might exalt you, casting all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him. Be firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. That's Peter's call to us. Be watchful. Be aware of the dangers and the pitfalls and the traps. But if you fall, get back up. Because God cares. Think about Paul, who in 2 Corinthians 12:9, after he's prayed for the thorn in the flesh, this physical ailment that makes him think he can't run anymore. It's weighing him down. He needs relief to continue to do the work he needs to do. And he prays to God fervently, at least 3 times, and he gets a response. My grace is sufficient to you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. And Paul's response to that response from God is to glory in his weakness. And when we think about our lives, our broken bones, our burned out spirits, the things that we feel like make it impossible for us to take another step. Our feet and our legs are cramped. Our heart hurts. Paul says, no. Your weakness is God's strength. Keep going. This will not hold you back. The strength that we have isn't in our own legs. It's in the power that God gives us. Going back to the Old Testament, I think this is an interesting one. Habakkuk. Habakkuk is struggling with this challenge of how these evil people are going to judge God's people. And he doesn't understand it. He's confused by it, and he's heartbroken by it. And the Lord answered him in Habakkuk 2 and said, write the vision, make it plain on tablets so he may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Behold, his soul is puffed up. It is not upright within him, but the righteous shall live by faith. He says, wait, Habakkuk. Be patient. The vision is there. Keep running. And so you might hear Habakkuk's voice echoing through the stadium. Wait for it. It will come. Live by faith. But you might hear some other voices. Not ones from the stands, not from ones in the arena, not those who made it there to encourage you on, but maybe those that are left outside the fence, those that didn't make it in. And of course, that makes you think of Luke 16 and the rich man and Lazarus. Lazarus who's taken to Abraham's bosom, and the rich man who's pleading, let me warn my brothers. And that rich man might cry out over the fence as loud as he can, don't come here. Cain might yell out and say, don't leave your brother behind. Lot's wife might warn us to keep our eye on the goal and to not look back. Judas might say the money isn't worth it. And Felix might plead, don't keep putting it off. We can learn not just from those that are in the arena and have remained faithful, but those on the other side of the fence. But of course, sometimes the greatest encouragement isn't from those in the arena. It's from those running the track with you. The living witnesses, the ones around you, people you know, whose perseverance steadies you. A friend who endures chronic pain with joy. Those who have suffered tremendous loss. Those who know heartache like none other. Those that are lonely. Those that are weary. I've gotten to know some of your stories a little bit since I've been here. And everybody's story has those moments of pain and trial. And we share those with each other, and we encourage one another. It keeps us running together. I think about those that were able to be with us this morning but aren't here tonight. Some of whom, due to illness, couldn't make it back out, due to age, due to the infirmity that they have of growing older. Some due to the hardship of being divorced and alone. Trying to do the best they can each day. And we can draw great encouragement from their efforts, even in those difficulties, to try and be here. But of course, we can't talk about the power of the witnesses that are running with us without making mention of the power that we can offer to others. It isn't just that we draw encouragement from one another, but we don't know who sees us laboring forward. They may see our slow steps and think, that's incredible that they're still going. That's incredible that they are still here, that they are still trying, that they are still running the race. It is an incredible example here from Hebrews chapter 11 and this image of the cloud of witnesses and this stadium imagery. And it's exactly what Ray's bringing out in this series on fellowship, right? This bond that we have with one another, this ability to encourage one another. And one of the reasons why this sermon means a lot to me at this present time is almost all of you, it seems like, have come up and shared a story with me about you losing a job and the trials that you went through with your family and have offered that to me. And in doing that, you have not only given me hope and encouragement for the future, but you have never been demeaning about the difficulty of it. It was never a, you'll be fine, get over it attitude. It was a, no, I understand, and I'm here for you. And every one of you that's done that to me, it means a lot. And it makes all the world of difference to me and trying to look for a job and all those things. But to me, that's even small potatoes compared to some of the other examples we've gained from one another. Those that faithfully attend, no matter how sick they are, no matter how much it hurts, they want to be here. And it isn't just the attendance, right? That just becomes a representation of who they are in the race that they're running. And so we need to take advantage of the fellowship we have with one another, these relationships and friendships. Share our stories with one another because of the way that it can impact us and drive us forward. But back to Hebrews 12:2. It says, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. You know, this passage, it says that we have to lay aside every weight. In verse 1. And not every weight is sin. Not every weight that encumbers us is a sin that we have to offload. Some are good things that have simply become heavy. Ask yourself, what dulls your love for God? What drains your time? What crowds your attention? Maybe you need to set it down, to lay aside every weight. Secondly, though, we need to cast off the sin that clings. Sin tangles our ankles. You can't outpace it by gritting your teeth. Confess your sin. Ask for forgiveness. Make clean breaks where you can. Invite accountability if you must. Better a slower, steady pace on clear legs than a sprint that ends in a fall. So lay aside your weight, cast off the sin that clings, and run with endurance. Expect the 20th mile, that breaking point the marathoner hits where they think, I can't go any further. When you see the rise above you in the road and it's too steep, it's too hard, expect the moment to come. Expect the days when you can't see the finish. Because endurance is not glamour. It's faithful plodding. It's one obedient step after another. It's the thing that we cling to when emotion has left the building and there's nothing else. You simply fight forward. And then, of course, finally and most importantly is that Hebrews 12:2, where we fix our eyes on Jesus. Because he is both the pioneer and the finisher of our faith. He ran before us. He endured the cross. He despised its shame. And he sat down at the right hand of God. But what's amazing is he isn't just an example sitting there at the finish line. He's the one who meets us on the course, who picks us up when we fall, who carries us when we can't walk anymore. He's there interceding for us, strengthening us. He's setting our pace. To look to the stands for encouragement without looking to him for strength is to kind of miss the point of the race. All of those that are encouraging us are driving us to draw that strength from Jesus himself. There are places in the Bible where we get these calls from people, maybe, that have not finished their race yet, but we can draw a lesson from them. And if you are someone who is not quite entered the race yet, think about what the Ethiopian eunuch might say. He might say, keep seeking, don't quit. Someone will show you the way. Cornelius might tell you to keep praying. The Lord will make a way for you. Agrippa might say, don't be almost. It's such an amazing thing, encouragement and fellowship and things we can glean from one another and from these examples. If you need to confess Christ, if you need to enter the race, if you need to be baptized, we always offer that opportunity. But if you are here and you're trying to run your race, you have a great cloud of witnesses, not just in the arena, but on the racetrack with you. And I apologize if I've used the analogy too much, but we're running with you. Just one lane over. Some of us may be a little bit ahead. Some of us may be a little bit behind. But we're here to pray for you and encourage you. And so if there is some sort of thing we can do for you to help you with a sin or with a problem that you have or to help you get started, please let us know as we stand and sing our invitation song.